The Season 5 Conquest jungle is dominated by the assassin role. Gods that have huge burst damage but are very squishy. And in today's video, we're going to go over a guide on what you need to know about the Season 5 jungle. First, let's start out with the camps. Now, the first buff we're going to look at is the Speed Camp. This is really the jungler's buff. It provides 15% movement speed for 120 seconds and is located in between the solo lane and mid lane. Next up is the Mana Camp. Now, it adds 5 mana per second and gives a 10% cooldown reduction and should really be picked up by the solo laner. This camp is really good to help give them sustain, and you can also help down that camp. Just make sure to ping, hey, pick up the camp. The next camp is the Red Camp and provides 20% increased power plus 5 physical or 10 magical power to the person that picks it up. Next up, we have the Void buff. Now, this buff reduces the nearby enemy's physical and magical protections by 10 and should be picked up by the tank. There are also a total of 6 experience camps located in the map. 2 on your side of the jungle, 2 on the enemy side of the jungle, and then there's 2 just to the left and the right of the mid lane in the very center of the map. Now, there are 2 different types of these. The 2 that are located in the very center of the map have 2 large harpies, which give a pretty big boost in experience and often are picked up by mid laners. But the jungle camps that are located within your jungle and within the enemy's jungle are really for you. You can pick those up and get a nice boost in experience. Alright, enough about the buffs, let's go over the rotation. You want to start out with the yellow camp. It spawns in at 23 seconds, 24 seconds into the match, and sometimes your mid laner will help you. If they do help you, this will allow you to not waste or not burn your cooldown, and that way you can have it on that next camp and get to it quite a bit faster. The only thing is, if your mid laner helps you, it splits experience, so you will not be quite as high level, but that is quite alright, because you will be able to pick up blue very, very quickly. Now, if you see here, my solo lane has quite a bit of enemy presence, so I'm going to head over there and help out. We're going to shove this lane in. I'm almost hitting level 2, and you can see after a single minion, I'm able to hit level 2, and this is going to allow me to chase off the Mercury and Chalk. Now, once they leave, me and my Chalk are going to back and help clean up this lane together. And although we are splitting experience, that's quite alright. We want to shove this lane very fast, and then we're actually going to head to the blue buff and get Chalk his blue. You can only carry 1 buff at a time, so, you know, just help drop the other buffs for your allies, and this can make a huge improvement. Now, if you see Mercury did not leave, I'm going to go ahead and engage on him. And, you know, if we kill him, great. If we just back him off, that's quite alright too. Now, after you pick up both of those original camps, it's very important to keep an eye on what the enemy solo laner is doing. And if you see here, I can tell he's breaking off to go after that blue buff. And I'm actually going to rotate over there, and if you see, we're able to snag a jungle kill very, very early on and drop the enemy blue buff, which, that's huge. We stole this blue buff. This is going to allow my teammate to head over and pick up the enemy's blue buff, as well as we got a kill. So just keep an eye on what the enemy is doing, and you can see if you want to engage or not. Now, one thing that's critical with the jungler is getting far behind in farm. You want to make sure that you are staying at about the same level, if not higher, than the enemy jungler, because if he out-farms you, it can be very devastating. One way you can do this is by making sure you pick up the yellow buff always. You should almost always have the yellow buff on. It respawns at 2 minutes and it lasts for 2 minutes. So as soon as it wears out, it's back up. Make sure you're picking up that yellow buff for those long rotations, because it will save you critical seconds as well as get you into that fight a lot faster. And if you see here, we picked up that yellow buff, and then we're actually going to head into this fight, and we're able to do quite a bit of damage to this Neith. Unfortunately, she's going to be able to get out, but that's quite alright. We can then turn on to Terra, and although neither one of those were successful, we were able to push them out of lane. since we have that yellow buff, we can then instantly head back into the jungle and continue our farm. Now, always keep an eye out for potential situations where you can get kills. If you see here, my Anubis is very deep into the enemy jungle. I'm actually going to head in and we're going to get damage onto their enemy mid laner, take her out. So that means even though my duo lane rotation was unsuccessful, I was still able to pick up a kill. And that was just from simply paying attention to the map. Now, of course, depending on what god you have chosen to play in the jungle, it's very easy to forget you are pretty squishy if you're playing an assassin. So, when you do go in for an engagement, back off if you're not able to get that kill. And you can see here, the enemy Raw has a huge minion advantage. And even though I got him very low, I was unable to finish him off. It's best to back up instead of tower diving for maybe a kill. Just back up and let him go away. Maybe you can get him at a later time. And if you see here, we're actually rotating over, and then I see Raw was taking out that side camp. So I'm going to kind of chase him off a little bit. But again, guys, I am not chasing that kill. Chasing kills is one of the best ways to end up dead. Next up is positioning and kind of line of sight. Now, if you see here, my team, we're actually going to shove under tower, and my Anubis gets very, very pushy and ends up diving the tower a little bit. Now, I'm going to stick around this corner and make the enemy Anubis feel a little safe, but then once I see that, you know, hey, our Anubis went under tower to get some damage, I'm going to go in there and help secure that kill. As the jungler, you want to try to be in every fight. When you see someone getting into a fight, head over and help them out. And if you see here, I'm able to head over to this tier, and me and Bellica are able to finish him off. This is absolutely huge when it comes to playing the jungler role. You want to be in those fights. There's no such thing as a fair fight. You want every fight to be unfair. You want every fight to be a 2v1, and as the jungler, that's your best job. Now, as the assassin, or as an unfed assassin, head-on fighting is definitely not the best option. And if you see here, we actually end up going in on this fight, and we're going to concentrate on the tank, which is not the hero you want to concentrate on. We should have been focusing the ADC, but we are able to take out that tank, but we die for it. If you don't concentrate the ADC and you just walk straight into a fight, most of the time the enemy team will focus you because you are that big damage dealer. So make sure you concentrate on the right target or come into the fight from the side or behind. Now again, we're going to go for a gank, and if you see here, me and my solo lane are going to secure blue, and then we're going to kind of wait behind this rock and wait for the enemy team to go under tower because we saw that they were both in lane. Now, once Mercury goes into tower, we're going to go ahead and stun him, keep him stunned, and ult him. And this secures that kill, and all we had to do was wait. If we wouldn't have waited, if we would have just rushed right in, we might not have got that kill, let alone they might have turned around and killed us. But since they were under tower in these early stages of the game, they are in a very dangerous area, and that allowed us to secure that kill very easily. Next up, we have that kind of in-game positioning, and you can see my team is in a fight, and both teams are fairly low, but I am very healthy. So I'm going to go in and help delete these heroes. And by jumping onto the other side of the enemy team, you can see that kind of scattered them. And it's really going to allow us to push in and get tons and tons of damage out. As the jungler or the assassin, your job is to show up and delete people, guys. And you can see here, we're going to absolutely delete that ADC. And that is going to allow us to stay into the fight, and we're able to delete their enemy jungler as well. And again, we can follow that up with their tank. But deleting those high damage heroes first is absolutely critical. All in all, you have three main jobs as the jungler. Rotate for ganks and fights, dropping those buffs for your allies, and then letting them know that you have dropped those buffs, which is huge, guys. Definitely let them know. I prefer to hold alt, left alt, and then click on the minimap where the buff is. And then lastly, keeping your jungle free of farm and helping pick up those mid lane camps for you and your jungler is absolutely huge. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this Season 5 introduction guide to the jungle. I really hope y'all enjoyed, or maybe even learned something. Thanks for watching, and if you did enjoy, show me some love, leave me a comment, think about subscribing, add me on Smite, guys. I'd love to play with y'all, and as always,